Hello everyone, welcome to our demonstration activity related to Ether use case 2 that concerns the provision of connectivity to handheld devices from low Earth orbit satellites. The rationale behind this use case is the fact that there are large areas on Earth that either have poor 5G coverage from terrestrial stations or they have no coverage at all. This is a service that is already being provided by United States ventures such as the ones of Starlink and AST Space Mobile, but unfortunately still Europe doesn't have sovereignty on it. This is something that we change with Ether and this demonstration activity. In particular, we emulate a vertical handover process from a terrestrial base station to a low Earth orbit satellite 1 that uses a 3GPP interface. In particular, we use the OpenAirInterface for the radio access network software stack, and we also use an FPGA-based channel emulator that emulates realistic channel conditions from the low Earth orbit satellite to the terrestrial user that concerns high Doppler shifts to the order of 18 to 20 kHz and also varying link conditions. This is our testbed setup. In particular, this is the USRP that represents the terrestrial user. This is the USRP that represents the terrestrial base station. And this is the USRP that represents the satellite-based base station. Finally, this is the FPGA-based channel emulator. To proceed further, on the screen we see the illustration of the scenario. In particular, the terrestrial user is initially connected to the terrestrial base station, but the connectivity is poor, either because the terrestrial user is very far away from the terrestrial base station, that is a macro one, or because there are high shadowing conditions due to foliage, for instance. Now, as the low Earth orbit satellite gets closer to the terrestrial user, there will be a point in time where its signal-to-noise ratio towards the terrestrial user will become higher than the corresponding signal-to-noise ratio coming from the terrestrial base station. At that point in time, there will be the initiation of the handover process, of the vertical handover process, and the terrestrial user will remain connected to the satellite until its signal-to-noise ratio again becomes lower than the one of the terrestrial base station. Here we emulate only a single satellite, but in a realistic condition we will have a multitude of low Earth orbit satellites in a low Earth orbit satellite multi-constellation, in particular mega constellation, where there will be a continuous handover process among the low Earth orbit satellites. In this regard, when we have low traffic conditions, such as night times, we can totally switch off the macro base stations, and then we get tremendous energy efficient gains because the macro base stations consume a high amount of power, whereas the low Earth orbit satellites are powered based on solar energy. In this regard, with this demonstration activity, not only we demonstrate a continuous connectivity even in underserved areas that the users can be, but also we do that in a very energy efficient way. So, all in all, with this demonstration activity, for the first time, we use a 3GPP compliant handover process, and as well, we bridge the digital divide between urban areas and remote rural areas that have poor terrestrial coverage. So this is of great societal impact. Thank you very much.